All right, guys, today we're going to be talking about Unholy Death Knight in the new Midnight expansion. And in case you missed it, Unholy is getting a rework. I spent my last video about 40 minutes absolutely glazing Blizzard for how awesome these changes are. Unholy is removing wounds, they are removing the need to stand in death and decay. Your pets and diseases interact with each other, and you're getting a new awesome ability which makes your ghouls blow up for shadow damage. So it's pretty cool. However, there was some feedback and some apprehension with some of the changes. One of them being that your runic power was a bit hard to spend because your sudden doom procs didn't cost a lot, and it was leaving there to be some runic power, some resource problems. Another problem was that your new ability, which is the ghouls blowing up, there was a weird delay. So they would wait after you press the ability, they'd wait 3 seconds and then they would blow up. This could have led to some weird min-maxy gameplay where you were tracking how long your ghoul has left to live. And without a weak aura, that was going to suck. So these changes are awesome. I just got pinged that we have all these, and I'm going to go ahead and go through them. So if you have been playing Frost Death Knight because it's really good this season and you have just forgotten how to read, don't worry, I'm going to read it to you. So, developers' notes: we are iterating on Putrify to make it more satisfying to press and refining the talents it interacts with. Alongside these updates, we're introducing new effects that add variety and shake up the rotation, creating more dynamic moment-to-moment gameplay. So, what they're doing is enhancing Putrify. Like I said, people had some apprehension. People loved the ability. Thematically, very cool. It summoning more ghouls that blow up. They're doing AoE damage with Shadow. They're doing single target damage. So you have options there, and they're very neat. But there was still some concerns. So they're going to iterate on that. Another thing that they're working on is the Sand Lane hero talent tree, which is not designed for this version of Unholy. So what they're saying is they're going to start tuning some stuff to make it synergize better. Now, first things first, we have a new talent, Soul Reaper. And Soul Reaper, if you remember, got removed from the Death Knight tree. So now Soul Reaper is back for Unholy, but this time it does 20% increased damage from your plagues and minions for 8 seconds, and it's still an execute. So instead of that little sort of ticking debuff that blows up, it is just going to be a flat 20% damage increase for your pets and diseases. I like this better. I play PvP, and having to track that little dot and when it's going to blow up, you don't always get value out of it. And even in PvE, sometimes you throw it on a mob and then the mob just dies and you don't get the value. This is better. So good change to Soul Reaper. I like it. Now, Apex Talent's Forbidden Knowledge has been updated. Necrotic Coil in Graveyard now incurs 1 second of global cooldown, was 0.75 seconds. This sounds like a nerf, okay? But before, how this worked is when you pressed Army of the Dead and you had this talented, you would get Necrotic Coil for your Sudden Doom, and you would get Graveyard for your Epidemic. And these had a reduced global cooldown. And you were spamming it. It was very, very spammy, which if you type on the computer a lot, or you game a lot, or you go to the gym and you're lifting stuff, the APM is a bit much. This is still going to feel very nice. It's still going to feel like, okay, it's game time when that cooldown goes off, but it's not going to be just an absolute fucking menace for your wrist. So good change. Good change. Putrify has been updated. Command your oldest lesser ghoul to leap and strike the enemy for shadow damage, then have them explode for shadow damage to nearby enemies. What I love about this is the word leap. Our pets do not have the hunter sort of sprint where they can make their pet capybara run at Mach fuck at the enemy. We can't do that. We just can't. their ghouls. They sort of waddle over. And what this was going to do is, before they leapt to the enemies, was they were just going to kind of walk over there. And maybe the enemy moves and the ghoul doesn't actually blow up on the enemy. And you can see how that's a problem. So now the ghouls leap to the enemy, and there's no longer a delay. They leap over there, they slap them, and then they just blow up, which unfathomably based. I mean, amazing. Very cool. Now it only has one charge though, and it has a 30-second cooldown. But before you freak out that, oh, Putrify is getting nerfed, there's more. Okay. So Putrid Echoes has been updated. Putrify deals 20% increased damage and gains 1 additional charge. So there's your extra charge. Now, the 30-second cooldown being changed from 15 seconds. Don't worry, there's another talent we're going to see where there's some cooldown reduction. So Blightburst has been redesigned. The explosion of Putrify extends the duration of your plagues and deals 100% of the damage they would deal over that time instantly. So what this would do before is it would, when you putrefied, it would make the diseases, it would consume the diseases and do that damage instantly, which was cool because you had some interaction between the ghouls and the diseases, but the problem is they were taking away your plagues. So you were having to either reapply them or spread them from another target. It was anti-synergistic, as they say right here. So this is a really good change because now when you're going to want your ghouls to putrefy in order to extend your diseases. Great change to make them, the ghouls and the diseases, synergize even more. That's exactly the kind of design that we want. So very, very good. Reanimation secondary effect has been redesigned. Putrify decays 1 additional lesser ghoul during Dark Transformation. Outbreak now applies Dread Plague and Virulent Plague for 24 seconds. Okay, Harbinger of Doom now has an additional effect. Consuming Sudden Doom reduces the cooldown of Putrify by 5 seconds. So that was what I was talking about up here, where the 30-second change, every time that you are pressing your Sudden Doom, when this is talented, you are reducing the cooldown of Putrify. And Putrify is a great button to press, so some cooldown reduction is nice there. What I like about this is with these sort of cooldown reduction talents, it is going to be, how you're managing your resources. The Sudden Doom one, that one is a bit tricky because you can't fully control how many Sudden Doom procs you're getting, but some of the other stuff that we'll see later on, I really like. We'll talk about that in a second. Unholy Devotion has been updated. Putrify causes up to 2 other lesser ghouls under your command to go in an unholy frenzy attack, increasing their attack speed for 3 seconds and extending the duration for the same amount. So again, this has been updated. Before, this was the talent that kind of made the Putrify, kind of worked with Putrify to be a bit toxic, that you had to track the duration of the ghouls. So now that it is not going to affect your ghoul that's blowing up, you're not really going to care as much about tracking this. So very nice. Again, your skill expression from Unholy should come from how well you manage your resources. It should not come from how well you can track a buff or debuff on a weak aura. So good change. Reaping has been updated. Putrify resets Soul Reaper's cooldown and allows it to be used on any target. So, okay. Putrify. Whenever you use Putrify, it is going to reset the cooldown of Soul Reaper. Soul Reaper now increases the damage of your pets and minions by 20%. Every time you press Putrify, you can send out a Soul Reaper. And you are going to have very high single target pressure with this. This is a good single target change. People were complaining because the old tree did not have, it had 2 builds, right? It had 2 very distinct builds. It had the disease build and the pet build. and you had one for AoE and you had one for single target, and people hated that. You didn't have any in between. Now, people are complaining a little bit because they're like, oh, everything works. You're always doing AoE and you're always doing single target. And, my steak is too juicy, my lobster's too buttery. Um, this is a talent, along with Soul Reaper, that is going to give you some choice. You are going to be able to take these in single target and do extra damage with your standard effects, your plagues and minions. So again, it's still going to reward good gameplay because you are going to have to manage your resources well. You're going to have to manage your minions and your plagues, but you have some choice. You have some choice now to give yourself extra single target damage. So I I can't believe people are still complaining. This is good. These changes are good. And Dark Transformation has been updated. Now lasts for 12 seconds, was 15 seconds. Runic Power Spenders now extend its duration by 0.5 plus 1 second. So again, this is the kind of cooldown reduction. I like this, the cooldown reduction, but the thing that people are looking at this again like a nerf, and I really want to talk about this, and I'm going to skip ahead for a second because Runic Power Sudden Doom now reduces the runic power cost of abilities by 20, was 30. So this also looks like a nerf, and it's not, and I want to explain why. Because Sudden Doom before, it was so heavily reduced that you weren't spending your runic power fast enough. And if you're not spending your runic power fast enough, you're not generating runes. And you're not engaging in your cooldown reduction. So you want to spend runic power. Okay, stuff being free doesn't always mean good, and that's with anything in life. And Sudden Doom and your death coils are no different. So what this will do is allow you to actually spend your runic power. You have a bunch of talents in the tree that are going to allow you to generate a bunch of runic power. This is going to make sure that you are still spending it. And when you are spending it, you are going to be giving yourself, and now that you're going to be spending more runic power, right? That looks like a big nerf, not as much of a nerf. So there's things here that I sort of want people to notice. They're being intentional about how they're doing things, because we want to be spending runic power for our rotation to be smooth. Now, I'll go back here. Festering Scythe has been updated. Festering Strike now follows up with a Festering Scythe that costs no runes, grants lesser ghoul charges for Scourge Strike, no longer casts automatically, and is now a combo spell. This one, I think this is weird. Festering Strike or Scythe doesn't do it for me. I don't know. I don't know why this is a combo spell. I don't know what value we get out of that. Maybe I'm missing something. It doesn't excite me like some of the other stuff does. Festering Strike now causes your next 2 to 3 Scourge Strikes to summon a lesser ghoul, was 3 to 4. This, I don't know because I need to test, okay? I thought about this one a lot. I had like a good think about this. Because right now, when you press Festering Strike, it generates 2 to 3 wounds. I can't even think of the name because I'm so done with wounds. Generates 2 to 3 wounds. On the PTR, it was generating 3 to 4 of the lesser ghoul buff. So them reducing it means that you would be pressing Festering Strike more. And Festering Strike is a better button to press because more comes out of it, right? It actually has an interaction now. It summons your pets, which have interactions with your diseases. It's not just a purple debuff. It does something now. There's something that comes from it that's not just boring, right? But it's still not a fun button to press. It's still not a good button to press for a couple reasons. One, it's melee, which it's like your only melee button. So if you're trying to avoid swirls on the ground, you're like, oh shit, I've got to run up to the boss right now. And I can't tell you what this is going to look like until I actually try it. Because right now we have other generators of our wounds. And there's some other ways that we generate ghouls. I just don't know right now if it's enough. So, again, Festering Strike is way better than it was because it actually gives you something you want instead of something you have to have. You know, for a little extra damage that had no flavor. It summons your ghouls, and your ghouls they blow up and they extend your diseases now, and like, great. But it's still not something that you're gonna be like, hell yeah, I want to press this. And so there has to be a very fine line of like how much you press Festering Strike. So I don't know how this is gonna play yet. This is the only one that I'm like, we'll have to see. I need to play on PTR and see. So once I get the alpha or the beta or whatever, I'll test this. Okay. Runic power spenders now increase the duration of your plagues by 1.5 seconds. Hell yeah. We love that. I already read this one. The update that introduces maximum durations to Dread Plague and Virulent Plague has been reverted. Very nice, because you can keep extending your diseases. We like that too. Blighted has been removed. Okay. All right. So those are the changes. Guys, I want to say this now. Not often does Blizzard go and allocate time and resources and energy into reworking a spec at this level. Give your feedback. If you have thoughts on this, comment on the video. Not for me. I don't care about the algorithm or any of that stuff. Comment so that if Blizzard finds it, they can see what people think. They can get feedback from people. Post on the forums. Post on Reddit. Post wherever. Now is the time to give your feedback. Not after this goes live, right? Not months later. Now is the time to give your feedback on these changes. Does it sound cool? Is there anything you're like, I don't know if I want to be doing that? You know, I don't know if I want to be running in for Festering Strike. Whatever it is, ask for it. I think in my last, like one of my videos, I said, oh, we should summon ice bears from Game of Thrones, like those things. That'd be cool. It could be crazy. It could be ridiculous. It could be a bad idea, but just give the feedback. Because they're going to collect it, they're going to analyze it, and they're going to figure out what direction they want to go with it. So now is the time. Give your feedback. I'm going to keep trying to do these videos and keep up with it a little bit, just because I don't want to be the type of person that sits here and just reads from a bunch of patch notes. The only reason I am doing this right now, guys, is because I want to make sure that Blizzard is getting to see a reaction to these. They're getting to see, okay, how does someone who is so passionate about this class and this game, how do they feel about it? It's important that we get that feedback across, right? So I'm going to keep trying to keep up with this, so that, you know, we are giving that feedback together, but like, give it too, okay? Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Suffer well.